Welcome to the FOCIS podcast, brought to you by the FOCIS Communications Committee.
Well, hello, Dr. Kim. Thank you so much for being here with me today. To start off this interview, what research have you conducted that you're most proud of, or any papers that you're currently working on?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'd say that one of our most proud moments was when we actually made a key discovery that was rather simple. We discovered that the cytokine receptor IL-4 receptor and Janus kinase signaling was present in sensory neurons. It was a very simple concept. And I guess what I'm proud of is that we're able to develop therapies directly from that are now available for our patients. And for me, science coming alive in that fashion is something that I found incredibly gratifying and did not realize how important it would be for me in my lab and my career.
All right. Well, then what would you say is new on the horizon for immunology?
I think what's really new on the horizon for immunology is one area, and I'm a bit biased, is the field of neuroimmunology. So it's where the immune system and the nervous system connect. And the reason why I think this is really important is for three reasons. It changes how we look at the immune system because of its ability to tango with the nervous system. It actually expands the temporal range in which it can operate. And by that, I mean that your sensory nervous system is going to respond to things within seconds, which the immune system can't. But because of that interaction, it could actually benefit from second order scale of events. It also can change the anatomic range in which the immune system can operate. So we may have previously thought, for instance, immune cells in far reaches of your body that are distant from this organ have nothing to do with that organ. But now, because of the fact that the nervous system connects these immune cells, it actually unleashes a new way of looking at kind of body-wide physiology. And lastly, it also brings in a more subtle and perhaps theoretical concept of this idea of a set point in your immune system. So why does your immune system react so robustly to certain stimuli and less so to others? Or why, for instance, does someone in your family have hypersensitivity to everything? And you might have another, say, sibling that is somewhat impervious to different stimuli. And we believe this neuroimmunology field can explain a lot of these things that immunology in and of itself couldn't.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. So then to wrap up, do you have any advice to share with someone just starting out in the field?
I think the advice I would give to early career people is to take some element of risk. Don't just do something because it's the hot thing, and really, really try to go into a new area. So not just more of a field that's already in existence, but is there a new field that needs to come into existence that would help to explain things that we cannot explain currently in immunology, or where immunology interfaces with other fields. So really try to find a new frontier.
That sounds like great advice. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And now we will hear from Dr. Marco Colonna, a speaker at the FOCIS 2025 annual meeting.
Well, hello, Dr. Colonna. Thank you so much for being here with me today. To start off this interview, what research have you conducted recently that you're most proud of, or if there's any, papers that you're currently working on that you'd like to share?
Yes. So I actually started my lab in 1994, and at that time, I made a decision to focus my attention on innate immunity because I felt that it was poorly understood as opposed to adaptive immunity. That was a much more mature field. And so my very first important paper that I'm proud of is the identification of the human receptors of natural killer cells that recognize HLA-A, HLA-B, and HLA-C. My contribution, really important, was the identification of polymorphic residues of HLA that are recognized by NK cells. After that, we decided that perhaps it would be important to look at heterogeneity of innate immune cells. At the time, it was thought that cells were pretty homogeneous. but in 1999, we discovered that by looking at human blood, there were two different types of dendritic cells. And one of these types was the plasmacytoid dendritic cells. And we discovered that these cells were the major source of type 1 interferon, which is important for viral infections, but it's also important in autoimmune diseases, and specifically in systemic lupus erythematosus. So after that, we made the decision to move from blood, which of course was an important source of innate immune cells and an easy source of innate immune cells for human, to tissues, because we thought that tissues are an important site of innate immune responses. And so in 2009, we discovered a new cell type, a new innate immune cell type, which we now call innate immune cells of type 3, which produce interleukin-22, which is important to protect mucosal immunity. And this observation really was a shift paradigm in the field, because it opened the field of innate lymphoid cells, which of course is a broad field of investigation now, but also brought our attention to the relevance of tissues in immune responses. And so along this line, my very recent discovery, and perhaps one I'm more proud of, is the identification of this receptor called TREM2, which is expressed in microglia and can be mutated in patients with a high risk of Alzheimer's disease. So this lets us to understand that the brain is actually not an immune privileged tissue, but is actually a site of innate immune responses by microglia. And the microglia is important to prevent neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. And even more recently, we found that TREM2 is also expressed in tumor associated macrophages, and therefore can also be important in regulating the immune responses in tumors.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. So then moving on, what would you say is new on the horizon for immunology?
So I think that after 30 years, now innate immunity has become a more mature field. And therefore, I think it's time to try to translate the discovery that we and others have made in innate immunity into new therapeutic avenues for diseases, particularly chronic diseases like cancer, like neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease, and in general diseases that are associated with aging of population. And so I think one area of investigation in immunology, and particularly human immunology, is how the innate immune system will changes with the aging of a population.
Great. That sounds like we've got a very exciting future ahead of us. So then moving on to FOCIS, how did you first get involved with FOCIS?
So, I think the spirit of FOCIS is to bring our attention to human immunology. And that's how I got involved in this group of people, because my laboratory for many years has really focused mostly on human immunology. Still today, we do a lot of work on human immunology, even though we use mouse models for understanding basic mechanism of immune responses. And I think that FOCIS has really gave a great impulse to study human immunology, whereas the rest of the field is mostly focused on animal models, and also to try to translate what we know about human immunology for developing therapies for human health.
Right. Well, then to wrap up this interview, what role does private funding play, and how does it compare to public sources in terms of flexibility and pressure?
Yes, I have to say that in the past 20 years, my research has been mostly funded by NIH, but recently NIH funding has become more reduced, and philanthropy has become a very important source of support for my research and for supporting science in general. Private donations are essential to advance the research, and also grants from private foundation. I can name a few: the Ludwig Foundation, the Reining Foundation. Those have been instrumental for advancing our research, and I think will be very important in the future to advance also human health.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me today.
Thank you.